Welcome everyone. We continue with the Kart Rider Drift League tonight as we have a team match and a solo match that awaits us. It's going to be the lower bracket semifinals for the team match first, and then of course the final part of the round of 16 in the solos. My name is William Cho, joined by Wolf tonight, and it should be a really good night of some Kart Rider.
Yeah, that's right. And the winner, of course, of our lower bracket semifinals will go on to face Live Sandbox. The winner of that will advance to the finals. Seongnam Freaks are already waiting there. They did win the winners match 2-0. We're doing a best-of-7 format again here for playoffs for Team League, so a little bit longer than what you're used to, but we're going to definitely find out which one of these two teams tonight deserves to move on.
Yeah, and when we had the regular season kind of wrap up, we were predicting, okay, I mean, still anything could happen. A lot of these teams look like they have a shot of trying to climb up. Of course, Seongnam Freaks still trying to defend their title, but it's not really a clear-cut match tonight on who might move on to meet Live Sandbox.
Yeah, it's a really tough one to call. I myself, I'm favoring MIRAENSEJONG. And I think they're the stronger team. I think they have the stronger roster, but ROX, on the other hand, looks like a very strong contender as well.
Yeah, let's take a look at the bracket to really break it down for you. So as we just mentioned, of course, we start with the wild card match, which was going to be between 4th and 5th. And MIRAENSEJONG, they prove once again that, okay, they are a pro team with those legendary players. They want to move on in the playoffs. However, they're always going to be playing for their life because they had to start there in the wild card, and they have to move up through the lower bracket as we see tonight, where it continues against Seongnam ROX.
Yeah, this is what the kind of structure I was talking about earlier. Winner faces Live Sandbox, who lost to Seongnam Freaks in the upper bracket finals. And then the winner of today will, or the winner of that rather, will move on to the finals on December 9th. So very exciting to see who's going to pull ahead. We have a lot of money on the line here as well. If you're tuning in for the first time, 100 million won for first place. Runner-up gets less than half of that, so the difference between first and second is quite significant. But there's still a lot of money to be had. If you can make it to those finals, you can at least guarantee yourself that 40 million, worst case scenario.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it kind of doubles every stage, right, that you move up in the ranks here. So getting to that finals, getting to the grand finals, and then having your shot to really go for the big pot at the end of the season. And of course, I think perhaps to these players, what matters more than the prize money is going to be that elusive first title, right, of the KDL. We are in our first official season, and oh wow, okay, I mean, we were talking about this, Wolf, before, and we thought, okay, MIRAENSEJONG probably favored, but I did not think it would be this one-sided.
Yeah, I really didn't think it would be this one-sided either. I was expecting more along the lines of 60-40, maybe 55-45 for MIRAENSEJONG, but actually taking 78, nearly 80% of the vote here. And then when you move down to the final match predictions here for the solos, you can see Hojun's percentage has actually dropped down quite substantially because he's normally hovering around 60%. He's the emperor, the goat of Kart Rider, but he has struggled a little bit as of late, so a lot of more votes going to SUNGBIN actually in this one. Hyunsu as well pulling up 14.5.
Yeah, I mean, I think Hojun having that 20% still, that just goes to show just how much faith a lot of fans have in him. Obviously, he's been playing Kart Rider the longest here out of anyone in the KDL. I mean, he's been a coach, he's been a player, he's set so many records. However, it's a really tough lineup. I mean, you look at it, there's SUNGBIN, Hyunsu, but then there's Luning, who won preseason 2. He's coming in, he's trying to reclaim that throne. And of course, the other players as well, they're really starting to come into their own, both in solos and team matches. So curious to see which final 4 players will be moving on to the final 8 in the solos.
Yeah, we didn't see a lot of people have faith in Jimin and Acidfly actually in that losers match, but they really came up big. Acidfly racing out of his mind, one of his best nights he's ever had in his career. So looking forward to him. We've seen the rise of BBoong recently as well, who's playing a lot more consistently. And yeah, I mean, when you look at some of the legends that are in this group, you might expect them to go through just by name alone, but I think we could definitely see some upsets tonight. I think someone like BBoong, someone like Acidfly, has a pretty good chance of making it through, actually, just given the shakeups we've seen recently and Hojun's current form.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree. And again, I mean, you know, you get a first place, you can really start to flip the board a little bit. Obviously, it's still in play that you could get 3 first places in a row and try to end the entire race early here until the round of 16. So lots of options here for our solo players. And something else to consider, quite frankly, is players like BBoong, like Acidfly, Hojun, they're going to have to actually play the team match first tonight, and then they have to grind their way in through the finals of the solo match round of 16 as well. So see if they have the endurance to bear all that.
Yeah, it is a very different skill set playing team matches versus playing solos as well. You're not playing for anyone but yourself when you're playing in that solo match, and we have several teammates here as well from Live Sandbox battling against each other here as well. So, you know, you're playing against your teammates, but you're playing for yourself. And we're going to jump straight in now, though, to the pick and bans for speed. We'll do item following this. ROX does have speed priority here, so they have first choice.
Yeah, we'll see how this rounds out. Of course, for anyone tuning in now and you're wondering, oh man, are we starting early today? What if I'm missing it? No, during the playoffs, just because it is a pretty lengthy pick and ban with it being a best of 7, we are going to go through these in the pre-show, and then we'll reset, make sure everyone has a chance to go get some water, get your popcorn, and get ready for the team match, as we do see Seongnam ROX taking us to Mexico Touring Rally first.
Yeah, really interesting to see that one come out first. Now, MSJ loves Handy Harbor. They pick it a lot. It's a very commonly banned track, so if you want to get it, you probably have to get it here in your opportunity to pick before the bans. So we'll see if they want to go for it. A lot of discussion actually being had about this. I think Terracotta Twister, another track that they like to play on that they could pick up here as well. See what it's going to be. It'll be Shanghai Circuit, actually, a bit of a surprise.
Yeah, that is quite shocking, right? Not one that we've seen often picked in first pick at all, and then let alone from MIRAENSEJONG as well. As you can see, obviously, they've played it a handful amount of times, but usually not as that first pick. Curious to see what the bans are. Now, if you're Seongnam ROX, you mentioned earlier, Wolf, obviously, Handy Harbor is the one that MSJ likes a lot, but on top of that, there's Glacier Extreme Stadium as well. So I think 2 tracks that are in high contention for a ban here.
Absolutely. Miami Drive, actually, to be taken away. One of our newer tracks here in the KDL. Does have a lot of variance, especially if you get knocked away from some of those boost pads. It can be pretty catastrophic for your team. It can mess up your midfield. Unsurprising, there's the Handy Harbor ban. I mean, MIRAENSEJONG is so good at this track, and it's a really complex one, very unforgiving.
Yeah, we'll have to see if Extreme Stadium still makes its return here, as we see just WKC circuits really lining up the best of 7 here so far. Mexico all the way through into round 3 now, moving on to the next pick. So we'll see what it's going to be from MSJ after that Brazil circuit pick. Where do they want to take us? Do they want to take us to something, again, a bit more familiar territory from all the preseasons?
I would expect Terracotta here if I mean, there's a lot of tracks available, right? And we haven't gotten to those final bans just yet, but I think they're very good at it. But Boom Hill Tunnel has also been a favorite of theirs and very popular here this season. Going to take that one, go somewhere they know. They've only played it once. And usually these stats, I think, mean a lot more than solo stats because teams always have draft picks for this. So if you only played it once, it means you've likely avoided it a lot and banned it a lot. So changing things up here, but I think they looked really good on it when they raced on it last time. Undefeated currently. Yeah,
exactly. Now, it does seem that MIRAENSEJONG just overall coming into the playoffs, they're really trying to expand their, I guess, repertoire here, but that should work out, better for them. Otherwise, everyone's going to ban out the Handy Harbor, ban out the Extreme Stadium, ban out the Terracotta Twister, so they're really trying to prove that they are willing to race on any track, as we do see Bayside Bridge Run being the second ban here from MSJ.
Yeah, a pretty standard track, but some of the shortcuts can be very annoying in team, and a lot of teams don't prefer to play it for that reason. It can also be a crazy one if it ends up being an ace match track. ROX has the final ban here. Terracotta Twister is what comes to mind for me, but it's been so far ignored in this draft. It will be Glacier, what you were talking about, taking that one away. It's my favorite track right now. Sad to see it go.
Actually, your 2 favorite tracks, Handy Harbor and Extreme Stadium, just being taken out entirely here. So we will have to cast over some of the other tracks tonight, but still quite a few choices left, even in this best of 7. And of course, with it being a best of 7, you have a couple more choices to go through. Construction Chaos will rear its head if we go to that round 5 here.
Yeah, notice that ROX is 2-0 on it, 2 losses for MSJ here. So definitely a strong pick for ROX statistically here in this draft. And I think it's their boldest pick of the 3 so far. WKC tracks are usually pretty forgiving compared to some of our older tracks like Desert Construction Chaos. So this one really going to test the limits of their skill, but they've had success so far. Factory Facility 5, a rare pick to come out here for MIRAENSEJONG.
It's an interesting track to pick up in round 6 as well, right? I mean, when you get down that far in a best of 7, you really want to stick to what you know, really go for the reliability. And MIRAENSEJONG saying, if it goes that far, we're going to throw a curveball here and take you to a track that you have not raced on so far here in the very first season of the KDL. This, to me, tells us that maybe MIRAENSEJONG thinks they can finish it before it gets to Facility 5.
Yeah, I think that's a very good read. I think that's definitely what they're thinking here. We have Terracotta Twister to come in as the 7th track. I was wondering when it was going to appear because you just don't have kart rider matches without Terracotta Twister here in the KDL. And the fact that there was a chance that we weren't going to see it at all was almost shocking, but it will come through as the final track if we get to it. I massively favor MSJ in speed. I think ROX's draft there as well, where they prioritize speed and picked some really forgiving tracks, banned some of the more skilled and high-skill ceiling tracks like Glacier, like Handy Harbor, tells me I think they know what they're up against. They know this is going to be a tough matchup in speed. So will we see Terracotta's Twister? I'm not ready to predict that. For ROX, I'm thinking more item mode is where we're going to see a little bit more potential success.
Okay, all right, we'll have to wait and see. Of course, again, best of 7. If we get down to that track 7, it means it's been a grueling match already. Usually, we have much shorter setups here in that best of 5. So curious to see. Obviously, we joke about the whole Nutmite score throughout the KDL so far, the 3-2 scoreline. Even that sometimes can feel a bit long. So if it goes down to a 3 versus 3, and then you have to go to that track number 7, curious to see. It's just a matter of who keeps their focus. And then after that, they will have to continue with item mode, which we'll be going through the picks and bans right now.
So MSJ does have item priority, as speed priority went to ROX, so they'll get to choose here first whatever track they want unprotected by those first 2 bans. And for item here, these are teams that have completely different play styles. I think MSJ is a little bit more go with the flow. They like to play a little bit more tempo-based. They do not have an item ace, so they're going to go ahead and pick one of their best tracks here and one of ROX's worst. I mean, this is kind of like game theory for what you would pick first, I suppose. Statistically, Mine Motherlode is where they're heading. Graveyard Dark Castle for ROX, definitely a track that you can have some player error on, but they are fantastic at it, 4-1.
Yeah, and not many teams have preferred that track, as Seongnam ROX being one of the few, or if not the only one that actually enjoys playing on that track. So curious to see how that works out, potentially in their favor as we take a look at the first round of bans. It's going to be Misty Falls being taken out by ROX first, now waiting on MSJ's ban.
Yeah, we'll see what they want to go with here. At Forest Misty Falls, lining up with the Mine Motherlode might lead for ROX to go towards, C-Plane base. That's not surprising. Maybe they ban Mushroom Caves from MSJ if that's what MSJ is looking to lock in here. We might get a hint, but item mode is really different. Teams are changing. The meta is evolving all the time, so it's hard to predict what teams are going to do on the day. A lot of discussion about this before they write it down and send it in. It will be Mushroom Caves, so they get that one before the ban comes through for ROX. These are 2 tracks where you can just simply, I mean, look at their win rate.
Jeez.
But you can just constantly attack, and push ahead and try to get one of your players ahead, and that's the playstyle of MSJ, and it's reflected in this this draft here.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned that, right? MSJ really embodying the fact that tempo play is super viable now, if not preferred, and they have just been shining better and better. A lot of people would look at the player list on this team and think they should be better suited for speed. However, they've been one of the shining beacons in item mode. As we take a look at the next one, it's going to be Polar Half Pipe coming in for Seongnam ROX.
Yeah, Polar Half Pipe, a lot of technical things you can do in the latter part of that track, taking the high ground, which you can even see on the image there on the draft. But see what this ban is going to be here for ROX, because there's still a lot of tracks left that suit MSJ's playstyle. And I mean, we've taken Shark Wake out of the pool. That'd be one you'd want to take. Magma Cavern, okay, that's
no big surprise.
Unsurprising,
yeah. I mean, just these mine tracks, right, with the narrowness that they have throughout the entire course, it really favors that tempo play. You can have a lot of good AoE setups as well, and MSJ's been shining through and through. I mean, this item mode really showcases that these teams have a preference, right? You're looking at kind of tempo preference from MSJ, and then Seongnam ROX, they're looking for those timing attacks at the very end, go for the wombo combos, which is why we're going to see London Knight being banned out by MIRAENSEJONG.
Yeah. Next to Glacier Polar Halfpipe, I'd say even more than Glacier Polar Halfpipe, London Knight really leans into that. Clock Tower is still available. That's one where we have seen some stuff like that happen. Maybe that's where ROX is going to go with their final pick. They only get 3 because it is item priority here for MIRAENSEJONG. I have 2 picks left. Factory Cogwheel Crush as a bit of a rarer one this season. We saw it a lot more in the past. They are 2-0 on it.
Yeah, I mean, this one can go either way in terms of style, right? I wouldn't say this one leans heavily towards either tempo or timing-based attacks, but MIRAENSEJONG having the confidence that they'll be able to go through it. I mean, this is one of those tracks where you can always rely on that boost towards the end to recover, and we see Venice Gondola Tour coming out here for Seongnam ROX.
They've played it 5 times, so clearly they really prefer this track. And there's Clock Tower Crossing, so kind of in the opposite order as I would have expected these 2 teams to pick these based on what the rest of the draft were looking like thus far. Especially when you consider this has never been played by MIRAENSEJONG this entire season here. But ROX with the Gondola Tour, we've seen some new tech on this track where you can actually interrupt the gondola portion where they actually go into the gondolas with really well-placed water bombs. So maybe they've got something special prepared there. Hard to say.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see, and we might not even see those tracks, of course.
True.
Once again, it's going to have best of 7 for both speed and item mode. So the tracks have been set. Now the players and the teams will have some time to make sure that they're prepped for it. They've seen the draft. They're going to get ready for that team match. But of course, that gives us a little time to really review how both of these teams got here, because I think they have very different stories. MIRAENSEJONG won that. The story kind of writes itself with the players themselves. Everyone has high expectations. And then Seongnam ROX, they revamped the entire team. People have almost little to no expectation, and now they're already in the playoffs.
Yeah, it's really full expectation super team versus underdog heroes who have the brand name of ROX behind them. Like Seongnam ROX is a huge brand. It's one of the strongest esports teams we've had over the last 10 years. I mean, that name has always kind of popped up. It's been a household name here in Korea. So a formed super team, 4 players versus ROX, who are kind of pulling together some of the better parts of other rosters. And it's really exciting to see these two teams clash. Now, if you take a look at their results here in main stage, MIRAENSEJONG, very impressive record here.
Yeah, MIRAENSEJONG, I mean, the whole round differential they have, despite their overall set differential not being higher, they still have a 14 round differential. So when they win hard. But however, they have had quite a few matches that haven't gone their way either. Of course, most recently, they just won against Desperado in that wildcard, getting a clean 2-0 win. In fact, a 4-0 on that speed mode, really showcasing that they've brushed up on that. However, Seongnam ROX, of course, they've had a bit of a longer break since they secured their place here for the playoffs. Last time they met MIRAENSEJONG, it went down to the ace match, and Seongnam ROX did lose in that one.
Yeah, I think it was always that MIRAENSEJONG lost to in an ace match that gave them that third loss. Otherwise, as you were mentioning, with their incredibly dominant scorelines, they definitely would have actually been ahead of Seongnam ROX. So Seongnam ROX definitely very happy with how that all went down. They beat always themselves. So Seongnam ROX ending up having the better win rate, which goes higher than that final score. You see the +10, the +14, 5, and 3, etc. That means more, so that's why they actually had the higher seed. So they had to fight through Desperado. They took the 4-0 there. I've always just myself, though, been much more impressed by MIRAENSEJONG as a team, even though their record is worse.
Yeah, it's one of those things where Seongnam ROX, okay, the record is good. However, how many moments can all of us really recall in that they really shined a new light on how KDL is going to run, a new meta, things like that? It just seems like they've been kind of the safer pick amongst all these teams. Of course, taking a look at the last matchup they had, it actually went the full 10 rounds, 3-2 on speed, and then the reverse here on item mode as MIRAENSEJONG clawed their way back in. Hojin versus Luning in that ace match. Hojin showcased that he still is that veteran who's going to be able to clutch it up when the team needs it most.
And Luning and Hojin will be playing in solos later on today as well against each other. So there's a lot of storylines in this night of KDL here that are all kind of coming together right now. How will Luning look? He's been on a little bit of a decline. Hojin as well. Will they be the ace players the second time around if we go there? That's not even necessarily something that we know for sure. So there's a lot to discuss if we go the distance, and I think for ROX, it's got to start in speed. You've got to actually have a successful run in speed. Mentality-wise, if you lose it, you know you can fall back to item, but they beat you in item last time anyways, so it is it's a hurdle that they're going to have to cross here. They're the underdogs in terms of the fan vote as well, but nothing is impossible. Here is, of course, the Nutmite score, how many times they went to 5 in speed or item. Nutmite has 8 of them, of course, unsurprisingly.
Yeah, that is actually kind of crazy that they went the full 5 8 times. However, the focus right now, of course, both on Seongnam ROX and MIRAENSEJONG. And the biggest thing to note is that when it went to that round 5, neither of these teams have a over 50% win rate, right? They've always been on the losing side more often than not. Now, MIRAENSEJONG only 3 times. Okay, maybe we don't count that as much, but Seongnam ROX 5 times is quite often enough, and you've only won 2 out of those 5. So it's been a tough road here for Seongnam ROX.
Yeah, for Seongnam ROX, really struggling a little bit more, and you see the lock-in here is like the opposite of each other, speed into item loss into item win. It's very interesting to see how these have they parallel each other. They both have strengths in both modes. I lean towards MIRAENSEJONG being better in speed. ROX has an opportunity in item, I would say, but it's really about form on the day for these two.
Yeah.
You know, if MIRAENSEJONG is on, they stomp. That's why they have such a great track differential.
Yeah, absolutely. And if they can do it in speed, they're in even better shape. Now, speed mode, I think a lot of people, if you've been following the season so far, you're looking forward to this because these two players, Luning and Hero, they have been tearing it up regardless of team record.
Yeah. Hero may be the one that they choose for the ace if it does come down to it today instead of Hojun, given the history you know, these two players have. Yeah, Hojun won last time, but Hero looking maybe he's the better player at the moment. But they have quite a history. You can see the stats here from preseason 2, from Aura, in fact, some of those players moving into ROX. So let's see if it ends up happening. It will be a battle on the track in speed regardless. Not a 1v1 necessarily, but of course racing for getting control off the start and getting that 3v1 that has been so common right now for our best teams in speed.
Yeah, I mean, look at these guys here in the 2023 KDL at the bottom of the screen, right? Both of them getting first place, but, you know, 12 and 11 times. They hold the first and second place in terms of overall average rank. So these are the racers that both teams are looking to put into first place, secure those 10 points, and then figure out what other combination you want. Funnily enough, I mean, MIRAENSEJONG, oftentimes when they're winning, it's not just with a 1-2, it's like a 1-2-3. They really just want to dominate if they do win in speed mode. Whereas Seongnam ROX, they've had a couple other options thanks to, you know, some of the flexibility they have in their racers.
Yeah. This is just a focal point on some of the players to watch in speed, but we're going to be talking about item as well, where things change up quite significantly for these two squads, and we'll show you guys exactly who has the most first place finishes here in Team Item. Interestingly enough, it's Hero who's usually the one to cross the finish line.
Yeah, and I think this again shows that MIRAENSEJONG, they really like that tempo play. Get Hero in first place, have him just defend, defend, defend. Everyone else is just pumping out attacks. And if Hero does fall, oftentimes it looks like it's going to be Nog who is taking up the mantle afterwards. Hojun really just playing that role of the captain who's trying to make sure they have a plan. But it's quite obvious from this. The plan is get Hero into first place, everyone else just distract the opponents as much as you can.
And Navi did have that really impressive tempo win where he was able to get 13 back-to-back shields to get his way in there in match 23.
That's crazy.
But yeah, it's a much more even spread for the side of ROX. 5 wins for Navi, 5 for Lens, 5 for BBoong. Luning only with the 1. Well, that's quite common for the speed type player that Luning is to not be the one who's getting first. He plays a more supportive role in item.
Yeah, I mean, that way you can also just, if you get that kind of wombo combo item, you just hold on to it, make sure you're waiting for a timing, wait for Lens's call, who is going to be that item ace on Seongnam ROX. And I like that you mentioned that. It's spread out because it really just comes down to Lens making that call of, okay, we have this combination of items. This time it's going to be you. It's going to be BBoong who crosses the finish line. It's going to be me. It's going to be Navi. Whereas MSJ, if they don't have the lead by the time they enter lap 3, they've probably already lost the race. I mean, that's the story here for MIRAENSEJONG's item mode.
Yeah, that's definitely true. See the parallel if you're new to Cartwrighter professional play between Luning and Hojun, who play the same role in speed, but then are never really the finishers on their team here because they're playing that more supportive role. Their driving skills mean less in item because it's a lot more about strategy, timing. So they often end up being players who sit around 4th place and just add support, shooting rockets and water bombs at the leader, or they just hold on to Angels and sit at the back. So a lot of different ways you can approach this. I think Nok is very good at item. I'm actually surprised to see, because we didn't see the stats until, you know, just a few moments ago, that he actually only has 6 compared to Heroes. Heroes just really been pulling his weight this season.
Yeah, just been that consistent, reliable racer. And that's what he does best, right? Is just going by the track, going for those time trials, even in item mode, just getting as much use as you can from those instant boosts, from some of the other defensive items. Just make sure you're focusing on the track itself rather than attacks and defense. So we're very, very curious to see how that pans out. Now, the overall key racer, though, sure, earlier we did see Luning versus Hero, but at the end of the day, it's going to be Hojun that the spotlight is on for MIRAENSEJONG.
Yeah, noticing that win against Luning in the ace match, he kept his heart rate under 100 beats per minute throughout that entire race. You watch a lot of other racers, they're sitting at 160, 170, 180. It's quite common because it's very tense. You know, you make one mistake and that's it, your entire team lost because you took that turn, you took that line too narrow, you end up bumping into the wall and everything is over. So it's a very stressful thing. Hojun, he's like, I've done this a million times. So, you know, for him, he's very confident. But again, it might be Hero instead of him today. I think there's a pretty good chance if we go the distance that it is.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. I mean, MIRAENSEJONG, all of them have played in the ace matches before, and it does seem they often want to give Hero more of that chance. But there are just some days where Hero just seems he's not in the zone, or he's not focused, or he's a little shaken up because of 1 or 2 tracks earlier in the team aspect of it. So sometimes they'll bring out the veteran Hojun. But whoever it is, I think we can rely on the fact that if it gets there, Seongnam ROX probably sending out Luning.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty safe bet at this point. I mean, BBoong has really improved a lot.
Yes.
But I don't know if tonight is the night. If we take a look at the team predictions here, Actually, Nutmite and Desperado expecting ROX to go. A 2-0 for Nutmite. Desperado going for the ace match win for ROX, which is, bold, but it's Luning potentially. Whereas more teams, a majority of the teams going for the MSJ win. Sandbox and Finale saying 2-0. Guangdong Freaks and always expecting it to be an ace match win.
Yeah, I do find it interesting. Guangdong Freaks, their only loss is actually to Seongnam ROX, and they're like, well, no, that was just a fluke. It's still going to be MIRAENSEJONG. We still think they're the stronger team, so we'll have to see how that pans out. But I think the team's kind of siding the same way that a lot of the fans are. I mean, sure, you can see a world where Seongnam ROX is winning, but it's very much more likely that MIRAENSEJONG is going to win tonight's match.
We had a huge stomp between MSJ and Desperado in that wildcard match, but that was everyone expected that. At least I think that was my take from who I talked to. Everyone expected that was going to be a stomp. But this one, you give the edge to MSJ, but you don't walk into today thinking, oh, it's going to be another stomp. They're going to get crushed like Desperado. I don't think that's what we're going to see.
Yeah, I'd be very surprised if we saw a 4-0 scoreline in either mode to begin with, right? So that already extends the overall match a bit. And sure, at that point, if it's a 4-1, 4-2, it might seem like it's a bit one-sided score-wise, but you really have to look at the details between these two teams, especially in something like speed mode where it could just mean, one or two racers not swapping those spots. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the stage is set. The picks and bans are ready to go. Now we will just give a little bit more time for the players to really get in the zone as they are now facing the lower bracket semifinals here in the very first season of the KDL team matches. We'll return with the match right after this break.
Fifth place right now. We have a tight-knit group as we move into the second lap.
Yeah, we, again, have a lot of racers that are kind of close to the bottom of the pack in terms of overall standing. This is his track of choice, and I gotta say, he's been working his way up the standings very nicely thus far. That was a really tricky maneuver he just did right there, kind of avoiding some of the more unfortunate collisions as he stays in contention for a podium finish. 400 meters left to go for first place. It's going to be between Luning and Hyunsu. You are the 100 meters left to go. Hyunsu barely has enough speed off that draft to take first place back, and had he not gone 8th place on the previous track, hold on, and you see all these blocks coming through. The gap between these Desperado racers. Oh my goodness.
Guard is doing such an excellent job right now, living up to his...
And this has been the winning formula for MSJ all season long. I mean, look at the bottle, the body fights that are happening. Guard can cause issues like this. I mean, look at how many meters are separating these Desperado racers. Hero and Guard are like an impenetrable wall that Ghost and the rest of his teammates cannot pass.
And speed, with such a dominating performance, Hojin and Nok, they're so far ahead that third place is going to be locked in.
Of a win, and Ghost once again all by his lonesome. The lone racer for Desperado in the top 4.
This is not looking great. Ghost is trying all he can. Actually, he bought a lot of space there for Striker to come in, but you got to keep in mind that MIRAENSEJONG, they're not far behind.
Their line that was really nice, was able to take a lead away from Nok for a moment there. Perhaps that momentum slowing is going to allow Ghost, after a really considerable collision, will allow him to catapult himself into first place, and Desperado looking really strong under pressure now.
Off of all those collisions, Desperado is firmly in the lead. Promise went for such an ambitious play, but it backfires on him. Now Hero is having that first place. Right now they're exchanging these crazy lines between Ghost and Hero, but Hero's in the lead. MIRAENSEJONG, they are far behind. They need Nok to knock Promise off the track.
That Promise falls down. I think that might be enough for MIRAENSEJONG to be able to convert the win. They desperately needed Promise to stick in those top ranks, and man, you can see Promise, kind of a look of frustration there and some laughs.
Place now.
Yeah, Hero's still in first place, but all eyes are on Neil, the winner of the first track, as he's been really good with his nitrous gauge.
Oh my god!
That's
all
gonna take
eyes, but now it's just bad stuff happening for Neil. Such a huge
effectively for 1v1. And at first place as BBoong is slowly starting to gain the distance. Oh man, Spencer is coming out for both Hero and SUNGBIN. SUNGBIN navigating it, I want to say, a little bit better as we come down the stretch. 400 meters left to go.
Hero is holding on to this lead right now, but SUNGBIN gets an impeccable draft timing, and he comes in first, takes it away from Hero. off we go into round 7 of our round of 16 winners match here in solo. Cool, once again, he's not too far ahead, so I'm assuming he's going to build more on the booster gauge for now and look to catch up later.
Yeah, but Cool also did this on Wednesday when it was track number 3. He took his time, he played lower in the positions, he just waited for his opportunity to strike. He waited for a collision at the front of the pack to just kind of weave his way through, thread the needle, and go try cross that finish line in first place. We'll see if he goes with the same game plan here.
He's been trying, but there's so many obstacles in his way. Boong and Neil completely blocking his lines right now. So many collisions happening, but it's just helping out Hero, Sungbin, and Neil.
He's a little bit far behind right now. Oh, especially that collision took a lot of momentum away, but he is working his way up. And let's keep in mind that all these little collisions that are inevitably going to happen here on the top, they might give him a chance as he's going for the Neil build. Very reminiscent of the way that he won 3 in a row previously. Does he go for the spin turn again here? He does! Cool! Briefly working his way up to first place with a collision off of Sungbin there. Oh man, he tried to make the magic happen once more. Will he be able to do it? It's him versus Hyunsu. He does have a nitrous. Hyunsu! He clips the lead 130 meters to go. And Cool for the second time in a row on Wednesday, on Saturday, he wins 3 tracks in a row. Unbelievable.
Man, Cool is just living up to his name. You can see it on his face. He knows he's cool right now. He shows us that 3P here once again, and it felt like the odds were against him when he got collided into. But at the end, he's able to boop off Sungbin, boop off Hyunsu, and take that first place for himself.
Oh man, that was absolutely unbelievable. He went
your mouth, better add your respect. Otherwise, pressure gon' be at your neck when I burn you like. This ain't a game, my aim is the throne. I'm much higher than you, like a rocket, a drone. I'm powerful, think of a stone. Throw it off of my brain and I'm back to the bone.
The Kart Rider Drift League playoffs continue tonight. We are entering the final few weekends of the very first season of the KDL. And tonight we start with the lower bracket semifinals between Seongnam ROX and MIRAENSEJONG.
A banger to be sure, William. A very important matchup. The winner of this faces Live Sandbox. The winner of that will go to the grand finals. So just 2 steps left before we have our finals decided. We'll have 2 best of 7s in our normal best of 3 format, whereas if you win, one team wins item, one team wins speed, we will go to an ace match. And it should be a really good match between these 2 teams. I think we do have a favorite, but not a clear favorite, I would say.
Yeah, I don't think it'd be surprising at all if Seongnam ROX was able to best MIRAENSEJONG and move on towards the lower bracket finals. However, just because of player reputation and their recent form, I think a lot of fans favoring MIRAENSEJONG in this matchup tonight, but it's going to be a grueling one for sure.
Yeah, it is going to be a long one. They've got solos, a lot of these players, after this as well, so you're going to have to keep your wits about you. We had our picks and bans already for the tracks for speed and item. We'll be showing those to you guys again in a moment if you weren't here for the pre-show. But there's a lot to break down here. I think speed, if Seongnam ROX can upset and take speed, I think their chances skyrocket for taking this series.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree, especially just because in item mode, it does seem like both teams just straight up took the tracks they wanted, right? So it could come down to just 1 or 2 tracks in that mode. However, on speed mode, we saw a couple curveballs from both teams, not ones that we would have expected given their drafts during the regular season. So we'll have to see how that pans out as we do see the first team enter the stage. It is going to be Seongnam ROX finishing in 3rd place in the regular season, securing their place here in the lower bracket for the playoffs.
BBoong looking a little tired today. He's going to have to wake up because he's got this and he's got solos after this. It's going to be a long night. It's going to be a long night of KDL. And there's the, little fighting chant as they raise their hands in front of the crowd, as they are a popular team here in Korea, but the opposition, MIRAENSEJONG, is the super team with the most popular kart rider player, the most successful kart rider player in history, and he's trying to make a name for himself here now in Kart Rider Drift League. And Hojun, well, this roster is stacked. Expectations were high. They disappointed when they weren't able to actually pass ROX in the standings to actually skip that wildcard match, but they smashed Desperado there. And for them, they're coming into this match very confident this is just one more rung on the ladder.
Yeah, I think for this team, you look at it, and we talked about it during the pre-show, but they probably think back to that match against Always, to that ace match, and think, okay, if it wasn't for that, we probably would have been in 3rd place. No big deal. It's just one extra match that we're playing. It's just more reps on the stage, something that this team has plenty of, so we'll see how that comes into play as we'll take a closer look at the teams with their bios here as they get set up on stage. First up, it's going to be Seongnam ROX.
Acid Fly's got like 7 different of these ones. Yeah. Like, which one are we doing first?
He's like, is this the right order? This is actually the hardest part for Acid Fly, is to figure out how to flip all his fans. Like, why does Acid Fly just have more than his teammates? What's going on here?
You see that Luning has one of the highest, and in fact, I think even the highest percentage, or rather average in terms of placement here. How did MSJ become a strong team? This is kind of a meme for the Hanoi Eagles, a baseball team here in Korea. There was an article about them. How did the Eagles become a strong team? And then they instantly got cursed and crashed to the ground. So they're trying to curse them a little bit. How'd they become such a strong team?
Yeah, just trying to curse them with all the memes possible of a team that's starting to look good and then just crashes and burns. It's kind of like the ultimate caster curse, but it's by the opponent team and the journalists. So we'll see if it comes into play. Now, MIRAENSEJONG, there's no mystery on how they became a strong team because you look at the names if you've been following the scene, this is a pretty legendary roster. And with that absolute dominant run in the wildcard match, they're looking to continue their streak.
Yeah, you see Hero here second only to Luning in terms of that speed rank at 3.16. I mean, that's about as good as it gets. If you start breaking into the twos, you're talking about an insanely dominant team, and this team is insanely dominant.
Yeah, just going through the challenge list here, just breaking every quest, getting rid of all those little exclamation marks and popping them off the checklist as they try to go all the way to the grand finals. But there are still quite a few steps, right? You got to win this, and then you have to face Live Sandbox, still a very, very noteworthy team, and then you'll have a shot to go against the Guangdong Freaks. Now, if you missed it during the pre-show, here is our lineup. And, you know, some of the tracks, sure, you know, Terracotta Twister is still there, but it's in round 7, so the order's a little different than what we're used to.
Yeah, we have Factory Facility 5, excuse me, as well in round 6. So a track that's very rare that MSJ picked here to throw a bit of a curveball. ROX picking Mexico Touring Rally and Brazil Circuit, 2 tracks that are very forgiving. If you lose control early, sometimes you can bounce back, especially on Brazil Circuit. Mexico Touring Rally, there are some parts of this track where you can choose high ground, low ground, take some risks. There are some pass points there. Whereas MSJ taking Shanghai Circuit, Boom Hill Tunnel, Factory Facility 5, a lot more confident of a draft from them. They took away Handy Harbor and Glacier Extreme Stadium, ROX did. So Seongnam ROX kind of staying with this in a lot of ways. I think we are the underdogs going into this series in speed.
Yeah, just taking away the favorite tracks of MIRAENSEJONG. But as you mentioned, MSJ still picking up tracks that they think they can keep the lead on the entire time. However, we will be starting with the Seongnam ROX's pick in track 1 as we go to WKC Mexico Touring Rally. And the race begins as we kick off a long night of the KDL. 2 best-of-7s for item or speed and item mode between these 2 teams. We have Seongnam ROX in red and MIRAENSEJONG in blue.
Yeah, start here, you know, fairly strong for MSJ. They have midfield control right now, which means Acid Fly and Boom really need to hold on to their top 4 spots here. Sojun tries to challenge through. Acid Fly, let's see how tight it takes this turn. Great job there, actually.
Oh, but Guard, some just good positioning, making sure he can keep the lead. This is actually a pretty good position for MIRAENSEJONG because you have Guard who is going to have that experience in sweeping, just able to defend that first place. Then you just wait for racers like Hojun or Hero to try to catch up and get that 1-2 at the end.
And with right now 1 point being the difference between these 2 teams, every single place counts. If Luning can pass Hojun, they suddenly take the lead. There's trading spots here, but now MSJ in a very confident position here, again with a little bit more midfield control. Navi needs to catch up. We'll get a shot of that in a moment where he is. You can see on the minimap he's not too far behind. There he is coming around. He is really the one that they need right now. 1-2 is a win condition here as well. It's a 1-lap track. Everyone taking the lower ground on this pass here. We'll see if anyone tries to take higher ground here on this area to try to get around. Looks like the answer is no. Just trying to go for the most speed possible.
And Navi finally catching up. He's trying to break through, but he gets a little too greedy. However, this makes an opening for Luning, who's going to get that first place. Gives that slight point lead they had for a split second. It's going to come down to the wire. 2-3-4 is it possible for MIRAENSEJONG? No, it does not look like it. And it's going to be Seongnam ROX getting that first and third place, breaking apart the majority crew of MSJ.
Yeah, this was a midfield race for sure. A lot of the focus of, you know, by our observers was watching what was happening at the front, but the midfield was where the real fight was happening. Constantly jockeying for position, going between 3rd and 6th and fighting each other in that pack we saw cross the finish line there. Once they hit the checkered flag, it was ROX who actually found success just by a single point there. Boong passing Hojun, blocking out Guard, and even though Acid Fly brings up the rear, they get just enough points to take the win here, about as close as it gets.
Yeah, I mean, it was a very interesting match because in the middle of the race, you had Hojun just kind of giving up on the player in front of him and then focusing on Luning, making sure to pressure him because they were afraid of him eventually taking that first place. But then Navi goes for the greedy jump around the corner, draws all the aggro, and makes a clear opening for Luning. I mean, this is some of the best team play we've seen from Seongnam ROX, and they're able to just barely edge it out, taking that first track in speed mode.
Yeah, still a 0% here for MSJ on the other side. They're still winless on that track, and that will continue. So close, and yet so far. Now we're going to move into their track pick here of Shanghai Circuit to see if they can bounce back. Hero looking a little nervous here. Starting off 0-1 is not what they expected to see.
Yeah, I mean, this is not the start they want. However, it is going to be their track pick. If they can get that start for Hero, MSJ should be able to bounce back as we go to round 2 on Shanghai Circuit.
Track 2 begins. Seongnam ROX leading. Guard will have a pretty decent start here, but he is outnumbered. Let's see if Nock can break through. The answer is yes. Luning challenges very aggressively here, but MIRAENSEJONG get the better start. 1-2 position occupied by Guard and Nock. And BBoong, ooh, taking a bit of a bump there, but he'll recover.
Yeah, just barely scraping by there, but he's going to be able to keep that 3rd place. Now Hero in a much better position this time around, and that's the racer that MSJ wants to get into 1st place. As great of a racer as he is, he shines when he can just do his own thing, right? Just go into time trial mode. When he has to really compete against a bunch of his opponents, that's where we see him falter just a bit, and the pressure gets to him, so we'll see if he can slowly climb up the ranks here.
Yeah, Hero, I think, a little bit surprised by the angle Acid Fly took there, but he will regain 3rd place. And Hero's position right now is so powerful, forcing Luning to take the outer to pass him, but this is a 3v1 scenario up here.
Oh.
Hero, ooh, a bit of an aggressive attempt there, but Hojun still gets to pass during it, so still 1-2-3 occupied by MSJ.
I mean, I don't mind it, but we'll see if it comes back to bite him, as Hojun is just going to get a good block against Luning, make him lose a bit control as he tries to recover on that shortcut across the grass. So, Hero just going for absolute aggressive plays. He's just trying to keep Seongnam ROX at bay, as they already have the 1-2. They even have Hojun there for backup for MSJ.
Yeah, well, if he keeps just attacking there and disrupting, the numbers game is always going to be MSJ's, and Hojun's blocking here is fantastic. It's like he's playing an ace match against 2 people at once.
Yeah, great stops. Acid Fly just can't find an opening. Now it's back over to Luning, but it's not going to matter at the end of the day, even if they pass him. The 1-2 way out of grasp as we see Nock and Guard entering, getting that track win here for MIRAENSEJONG.
Really fantastic plays there from Hojun, and Guard, he took a bad situation and turned it into a great one for them, buying so much space there, and then Hojun was just never going to give up any control there. Clear mastery of the track, and it started off well for them, and that's why starts are so important in Kart Rider Drift League for the team matches, for speed. If you can get ahead first, you get to control the narrative of where they could pass, when they could pass. Nock, with all that space, breaks the track record of his opponent here in BBoong, and we'll take it at 133.260, so pretty nicely done here for MSJ. A big statement bounce back after losing the 1st track.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing that shines to me is that Hero still provided so much value despite losing that lead. Oftentimes, if Hero wasn't able to get the 1-2 position, we saw him kind of become irrelevant throughout the race, sitting in 7th and 8th place, but this time, he's using his boost to constantly put that pressure and disrupt Seongnam ROX so they can't just get the easy drafts off of their opponents. We'll see if that trend continues as we get ready to go to yet another WKC track here in round number 3 on Brazil Circuit. And the race is off. BBoong starting from the side, just trying to make sure that they're able to control the crowd for the most part. We talked about this track earlier. Lots of ways to try to make a comeback, even with a couple mistakes. However, this time, Hero's in the exact position he wants to be in.
Yeah, this is exactly what they want. Although, maybe a bit of a caster curse from us here. He will get passed by Luning, but Luning is outnumbered here. And he alone isn't going to be able to get the job done. The rest of his team lagging behind massively. But early starts don't matter as much here because there's so many different paths you can take. You can take outer lines, you can boost through the grass. It's very difficult to sweep on this track. But Luning, as well as he races here, we're going to have to take a look at where the rest of the team is because 1st place isn't going to cut it alone.
Yeah, I was curious if MIRAENSEJONG just kind of let Luning do their thing and then make sure they can keep the 2-3-4 on lockdown. However, they don't want to take too many chances. They're going to make sure they constantly pressure Luning as well. Just really disrupt Seongnam ROX. Acid Fly finds a good opening amongst all his opponents, though.
Acid Fly has been finding some great angles, and now he's up here with Luning, and now this is a really competitive race here. Yeah, MSJ leading currently by 3 points, 5 points now, but if Luning can get into 2nd place, that 1-2 win condition is definitely a possibility here. It's such a close race, but Hojun now pushing Acid Fly back.
Yep, Hojun just taking that lead, trying to buy a bit more time for his teammates alongside Nock. So the 1-2 in contention by MSJ, but Luning, he's not out of the race just yet. Hojun knows this. He's trying to keep his eye a bit more on Luning than he is on Acid Fly.
Oh man, this is exactly how this track plays out. There's just so many different angles, there's so many different opportunities, but MSJ, if Navi doesn't get first here, there's just no way. Hero's contesting him here in 1-2. Definitely an option here for MIRAENSEJONG.
And look at these trade-offs from MIRAENSEJONG as well. Hero goes for a bit of a sweep. Nock comes back, second. This time Hero catching up once again with another draft. Nox trying to find the opening, pressuring Seongnam ROX so he can't pass Hojun. However, Navi, now he's going on to first place. He's trying to hold on to it. He's going to cut across the grass so he can bump Hojun into the wall, and he's going to bump him against the tires. It's going to be Seongnam ROX. Navi with a clear lead, getting that 1-2 alongside Acid Fly.
What an insane passage of play. The angles there, the bumps they took, and then the final nitro there at the end. That was one of the most insane finishes I've ever seen. Such a clutch play there. And Acid Fly, he's helped set a lot of this up, but the timing there was just so clean. And in all of the chaos, Navi and he will emerge first and second here, even with Luning and BBoong at the end. The 1-2 win condition, we were talking about it was still a possibility, it was still an option. They couldn't get the blocks off, the track is too wide. They took the exact right angles, they communicated well, and they bring themselves to a second win here. Very impressive passage of play there from ROX. That's the kind of stuff this team has been missing. I think they're finally showing up.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned it. I mean, that kind of split-second decision, going for a bit of a Hail Mary, but doing it so precisely to make sure you secure the win, keeps them in the lead 2-1 in this best-of-7 speed mode. Now we go back to MIRAENSEJONG's pick as we get ready for track number 4 on Boom Hill Tunnel.
Off we go. Seongnam ROX definitely having the momentum now. This is a very short one-lap track. You saw the record 1 minute, 13 seconds. The start here is so important because there's not a lot of wiggle room here. Very difficult to pass. It's a very narrow track. Barely even here, but you got to give the edge again to MIRAENSEJONG, who actually have the 1-2-3. Now Hojun moving up into second place here. Navi, if he makes one mistake, it feels over.
Yeah, and Guard just constantly putting the pressure on. I love that Hojun also just caught up just in time to make sure he provides support for Hero. So now, Hero, he can really just focus on his race. Hojun, oh, he tried to go for the block. However, now that tricks up Hero a bit as well. Navi getting a clear lead. Bumps against the track just a bit.
Hojun here really playing with fire, but he is going to win out for now, as this midfield is insane. This whole series has been a midfield game. It really feels like Navi battling with Knock and Guard here, looking for that Neo build up off of the railing here. 1-2, still occupied by MSJ. About 15 seconds to go here on this track. Acid Fly, some spin attempts here, but they are not really going to do too much here for ROX.
Ooh, great jump from Guard as well. He cuts them off. He sees that there was a bit of speed lost from Acid Fly, and it looks like this should be a clear one too. Luning's going to do what he can to try to break it apart, but it's going to be Hojun and Guard crossing the finish line. And this is the story of Boom Hill Tunnel, right? You get that lead. Once you pass the halfway mark, it's really hard to trip up the first and second place.
Yeah, and you know, even with nice attempts there to go for spin turn is always more powerful if you're in those top two spots and you have a little bit more space. You can't really use it to close the gap because you're going to be colliding with too many other racers. The midfield is just too dense, too tightly packed. And so Hojun and Guard do end up taking this one. The Hojun, he's really racing like he's trying to prove something today, and it could have come back to bite them. It looked really risky for a moment there, what we were seeing from him. I was a little bit concerned, but he does hold it, and he does recover well and bring us to a 2-2 scoreline. But the man's racing like somebody possessed, you know, and sometimes I'm like, Hojun, you don't have to prove anything. We know you're the Emperor, okay?
I know, right? I mean, listen, you have such a great career behind you, but I love that he still has that drive behind him. Just go for the Hail Marys to go for the win rather than just protect his own reputation. We'll see if it continues as this is already tied up close 2-2. Getting ready for round 5 on Construction Chaos. As we see the racers speed across the sands here, this is going to be a track where that midfield kind of density, it could come back to bite both teams as we have some crazy parts in the later half of the track.
Yeah, there are some 90-degree turns that we're going to get into here which become insane, and the more space you have for your front runners, the better. And this is exactly why ROX are in a good position here. This is their track selection. We didn't expect to see this track out of them. Wondering what the mastery level is looking like right now. Look at how far Luning and Navi have pulled ahead here of the middle of the pack. They have a huge opportunity to avoid any of that chaos on these 90-degree turns we're now entering. And Guard and Hero kind of competing with each other, not intentionally here because they're trying to take the tightest line possible, but they have to avoid collisions with each other. As you can see, Navi there has one with his teammate as well. That's the opportunity Hero's looking for.
Yeah, Hero just trying to catch up. So finally, as everyone just plays it cautious here in lap number 1, MIRAENSEJONG will have a bit of an opportunity to catch up. They get that double team boost, but Seongnam ROX answers just right after. Navi now going into sweeping mode, trying to protect Luning, get him an even bigger lead that'll secure the 10 points. And then Seongnam ROX, they have a couple extra options.
Yeah, gotta be careful though. Acidfly lagging behind a little bit. BBoong in 8th right now, so you're hoping for the 1-2, but if you can't get that, you're gonna have to hope for your teammates to push through. Acidfly doing just that right now, pushing them into that 20-point lead. Navi really aggressively trying to find this draft angle, and they keep the numbers advantage. The early part of this track, ROX really has down.
Yeah, and Acidfly, he's just been finding these very clutch moments and openings in all the tracks so far. Even if it only lasts for a split second, it creates enough of a gap. However, right now it's just 1 point difference. Any one of these racers switching spots, and that's going to determine who wins. Luning should be safe in first place, but Hero, what's the play here? Do you try to just secure second, or do you try to trip up Navi and secure the 2-3-4 through your teammates? Will go for it. Hero slows him down. Oh, he tries to go for a harder block, but that leaves the opening for Navi. Hojun, does he have enough speed? He's got the double boost, but the team boost, it comes out just in time. Can he pass Navi on the jump? He's going for it off the draft. He goes for the close corner. He greets it for first place, but he's not able to pass Luning. And the 1-2 for Seongnam ROX keeps them back in the lead.
Yeah, puts them on match point here, and we were watching that battle between the back racers there, Guard and BBoong battling it out, and that looked like it was going to be the deciding factor. It looked like there was no way that they were going to be able to make that 1-2 happen, but again, greed comes through, not only on that final jump, but the attempted block there from Hojun allows that 1-2 to come through. He tries another Hail Mary afterwards on the jump to try to pull it back into their favor, but fails. And even though Guard wins that battle against BBoong, it ultimately doesn't end up mattering at all. With ROX taking the 1-2, you win those no matter what happens after that. Everyone from 3rd to 8th, doesn't matter if you do have 2 players in the 1st and 2nd spots, that's enough points guaranteed to win the race. And now they're on match point here. Very tense for MSJ, and I feel like ROX are just really showing up tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everyone doing their part. These split-second decisions from all 4 players coming out in favor. Now, this is going to be that curveball that MSJ prepared for us as we see. Can they tie it up 3-3 on Factory Facility 5?
Round 6 here, MIRAENSEJONG against the wall here as Luning, bit of a rockier start from him, will be able to build some extra nitro. This track is super jagged. It has a lot of tight turns, but they're wide. The turns themselves are quite tight, but the track is wide. So there's a lot of opportunity for players to take outer lines to actually try to pass here. So it's very different, and it's a track, as you mentioned, that we don't see very often here in pro play. So let's see what MSJ has planned. Right now, the lead they hold very strong here, 1-2.
Yeah, and Hero just constantly in contention against Acidfly. Now off those jumps, most players bunching up together once again in the midfield. Acidfly kind of lonely here up in the lead. Meanwhile, Nox just playing against 2 people, but he's not able to defend against both. Luning and Navi will pass him by, and Seongnam ROX, they should have an opening, a chance here to try to break apart the 1-2.
Yeah, Acidfly's opportunities here dwindling, though, as the gap does widen.
Oh, we saw... Yeah, and the PIP, Nox just gets absolutely crushed against the wall as we see Luning just speeding right by him. However, Acidfly still needs to break that 1-2.
Yeah, he needs to break that 1-2, but he needs more than that as well. Okay, Luning and BBoong trying to push up. They need to break this 1-2 or there's just no chance, but I think they're going to need more than that with Navi back in 8th place. 500 meters to go. Acidfly, what angle is he going to get here? It's not good enough.
Yeah, Luning, he goes for another greed jump himself this time, but it's just going to be a repeat of what Hojun had last, as it's going to be a 3-3 tie going down to the wire as you get ready for round 7 here in speed mode.
It's going to be a 7-rounder. I don't know if we can call it a nut, Mike, because it's a 7-rounder, not a 5-rounder, but we're going the full distance here in this first one. And it has just been back and forth. We have traded tracks each and every time between these 2 teams. And that was a very dominant performance. You could just see that, unfortunately, for Seongnam ROX, just not having the mastery of that track. I mean, look, Acidfly looked like he certainly did, but he couldn't get it done on his own. Luning also breaking through, not taking some abuse. But the 1-2 is always going to be the stronger win condition. We just saw it happen on the previous track. And that is how these 2 teams are operating today. Get that early lead, protect the 1-2.
Yeah, and now it comes down to the wire, to a old-time favorite here for the KDL. It's going to be Terracotta Twister. Seongnam ROX decided to pick it as the last track, going back to some familiar ground. However, we've seen more and more here in the very first official season, a lot of aggression as we go into that tomb section, trying to knock each other off as you go around that little snake line. So we'll see how these two teams perform. Both sides going for a lot of these Hail Mary plays. Get ready for World Tour Terracotta Twister. It's going to be the last track in speed mode between Seongnam ROX and MIRAENSEJONG. Now, MSJ, their gamble taking us to Factory Facility 5 works in keeping their dreams alive as we see a lot of aggression right off the bat, but we'll see if they can close things out here on Terracotta.
All right, Hojun being in first here makes me feel a little bit more comfortable because he has been one of those aggressors once we get into the indoor portion of this track, but in first place, he's going to have to be the defender by default here and try to avoid what we see here from BBoong potentially and Na'Vi as well, because the attacks you're talking about in the midfield around this particular turn right here can be deadly, or the next one, excuse me, where you do come over and you see these opportunities to cut across these corners. That this turn in particular where it gets narrow, Guard pilots it really well.
Yeah, Guard was playing it quite safe too. You could tell that he was trying to keep his eye on his opponents, make sure he blocks them off so Hojun doesn't have too much to worry about. In fact, that gives him an opening himself. So now the 1-2 held by MSJ. Now Hero, not exactly known for the best sweeping. He is much more of that runner, that speed ace oftentimes for MSJ, but right now he has to do the sweeping. If he can keep both Azafly and Luning, maybe even all the way down to BBoong at bay, it should be a pretty easy race here for MIRAENSEJONG.
Ooh, great disruption there from Guard, forcing Na'Vi to take some of these awkward bumps on the previous patch. That would have been the end of it, is Guard is just trying to block Luning at every turn, takes the inner here, and they're just maintaining that 1-2.
Yeah, living up to his name, just keeping everyone at bay. Na'Vi finally going to catch a break, but is it going to be enough? I don't think he can go for anything too aggressive. Guard even going forward on the jump, bumping Na'Vi, forces him to lose speed as Na'Vi tries to recover. Guard is now just trying to play for sweeps. Luning has an opportunity on the draft, and what a cutoff from Guard. Absolutely just shoulders him against the wall. Hero back in play as well. The 1-2 defended for MIRAENSEJONG, and they will be taking the lead in this match as they take speed mode 4-3.
Guard playing out of his mind, blocking so many different attempts there from Luning and just never letting them crack that top two. It's another 1-2 finish for them to close out speed. But Guard just, he made it happen every single time. And there were some really nice attempts as well. And then there was that slowdown from Na'Vi, and he just never really fully recovered. I think once it was just Luning they had to contend with, and Na'Vi fell back. Actually, finishes in 8th place at the end here. There was just no coming back, and that one hit really took half the wind out of the sails there of Seongnam ROX. And then once that happened, it was just an easy game, a 1v1 for him to play. The space was immense for Hojun there. And they take it 4-3.
Wow, I mean, just insane plays from Guard. Just the number of things he did in that second lap of Terracotta Twister, absolutely impressive. And I mean, you can't blame Azafly. He looks defeated because he has so many moments, and the team overall for Seongnam ROX to constantly be the ones who are still keeping the lead. We have to remember, MIRAENSEJONG didn't have the lead until the very last track, and then they make the comeback 4-3 to take speed mode.
Now Lens will be coming in for Azafly, the item ace here for Seongnam ROX. So that is something that MSJ, MIRAENSEJONG do not have. They do not have an item ace. They're a 4-man roster. So this is where it comes down to some of those timings we were talking about in terms of the item draft, because the draft we saw from ROX much more leaning towards trying to have those finishing moves where you use the Magnet Rush, where you use Nitro and a Magnet together, or you try to hit a timing with Lightning and pass at the last possible second using some extra momentum or some high ground. That's the strategy that ROX has, and I think the strength that they have slightly over the more tempo-based playstyle we're seeing from MSJ. That being said, the tempo-based playstyle is becoming more meta right now. MSJ has track advantage here. They had the item priority, so they have 4 tracks they selected to ROX's 3.
Yeah, and absolutely tracks we would expect them to enjoy. I mean, same could be said for Seongnam ROX, but as you mentioned, Wolf, because the meta has been favoring that tempo just a bit more, you gotta imagine it's a bit more flexible throughout the draft, right? Seongnam ROX, they're not really looking at these tracks and being like, oh, our style absolutely wins in this matchup. It's much more of a, well, we gotta hope for the best to a certain extent. And now you're really relying on Lens to be able to make those calls ahead of time, because if you're waiting until the last lap, the last sections of the items to make your call, you might be a bit too late.
Yeah, you might be. It is really going to be a test of what ROX can do. Can they show more versatility, I think, here? Because they only have 3 tracks that are theirs, and only 2 of those 3 really suit their playstyle, with London Knight being banned.
Well, it's going to be MIRAENSEJONG's first pick, trying to continue the good vibes over from speed mode as we go to Mine Motherload. Item mode begins as MIRAENSEJONG currently leads in this matchup after a close speed mode victory.
Now, Luning here, good start. That scanner not going to be too useful here in lap 1, unfortunately, that he does pick up. But BBoong, first place with 2 shields. That's the kind of tempo you're looking for to start things off.
Just playing things pretty safe here on the side of Seongnam ROX. I mean, if we're able to get the lead, you might as well keep the tempo. And BBoong just trying to block off everyone as much as possible. He will barely try to recycle his items there at the end.
Yeah, that was a little bit of a rough one there. He kind of mistimed it just by a split second, so doesn't really get the value he was looking for. Sacrifices a lot of momentum as a result. Ends up with a Wisp and an EMP, not really what he was looking for there in 8th place.
Yeah, meanwhile, Hojun, he was actually trying to, once again, go for a bit of greedy play, keep Lens at bay, and then cut him off at the end to take over his own item. He actually misses out on item recycle himself, and that creates a much bigger gap towards Lens right now, who holds a Guardian Angel on his own already. So Seongnam ROX, they have some items set up for the 3rd lap coming up soon.
The UFO is going to come out here. Good shield from Hero. Luning holding on to 2 of his own here. Will cycle one out, ends up getting another one. It's going to be eaten by this UFO, or will get slowed down, excuse me, by this UFO.
Oh, and Hojun, double shield. You've got UFOs on both sides. Only 1 EMP on the side of Seongnam ROX, though. But all right, just takes the heat from one of those UFOs, because we are still only in the 2nd lap out of 3. So MIRAENSEJONG, they don't exactly quite have the setup they would want. Normally, if you're playing for tempo, you already want to have a pretty hefty lead here towards the end of lap 2. So now both teams, they have to be quite aware of what their options are for a tiny takeover at the end.
Yeah, Nock is going to have that shield. That's actually huge that Navi gets slowed down there. Now you have 2 players here to actually protect each other, and Hojun is going to be the one who's trying to protect Nock as he pushes it further ahead. He's hoping for an EMP pickup here as well as an additional shield if he can get one, as that lead is starting to mount significantly. He's got the big banana. I don't know if that's really going to help him out too much. Not really.
Yeah, just going to be dropped there trying to cycle through. The scanner does come out, so MIRAENSEJONG has an okay idea. However, not too many items on the side of Seongnam ROX to take a look. We have double Magnus, but no boost to go off of it. Curious to see Lens and BBoong. What's the idea here? Lens is just going to use it just to try to catch up, but he's not going to get full value. Now it's going to be Luning going for the Siren as well, but it's already too much of a gap as Nock is going to cross the finish line safe and sound, taking the lead here in item mode.
And we talked about the strategy that they like to go for. They played their own way. It did take longer than you normally start to get an advantage towards the end of the 2nd lap or so. If you haven't gotten it by then, it usually looks pretty doomed and you run out of steam. But they were able to actually put Hojun in a position to buy some time there. They had that really nice Angel Shield to come through about halfway through that 3rd lap, and then the gap is too wide. Unfortunately, Nock is really not in range, and MSJ will end up taking this first track here, Mine Motherload, their track pick. And we'll see if ROX can bounce back now with their own style, but Tempo once again wins out.
Yeah, I mean, Tempo, again, it's just more flexible, right? Because worst case, you can still try to go for a timing attack, whereas if you're focusing on something like a timing towards the end, you're really just trying to say, oh, well, do we keep this Guardian Angel? I mean, we're only in the beginning of lap 2. There's so much more for you to consider. I feel like it's a lot more pressure on your item ace. Well, we'll see how it pans out as we go to ROX's pick of Graveyard Guard Castle.
Round 2 has begun. MIRAENSEJONG 1 speed in the 7th track here. And now they're just 3 tracks away from preventing the ace match and moving on to face Live Sandbox. We'll see if they can keep up the momentum here. This time, it's Seongnam ROX's track selection.
Yeah, Navi in the lead so far, but we'll have to wait and see, of course, another 3-lapper. I'm curious to see if ROX is able to just keep this. Now, Lenzy's been consistently kind of taking the lead and just running with it here for Seongnam ROX. Oftentimes, we'll see him kind of sit at the back so he can really commandeer the entire squad. But for now, he's just taking what he can get. Great water bombs through and through from MSJ, continuing on from track 1.
Yeah, that was really important there. Try to get them right before you go into that portal where they're fairly protected as That Wisp is going to, okay, it looked like it's going to go wide for a second there. It does actually eventually connect. That's an item you don't want to throw away.
Yeah, we're just constantly seeing the targets back and forth. So once again, I mean, no one having a clear lead here. The Luning is going to barely get that shield. The Magnet trying to slow him down, but he's already made the jump. So safe for the time being. I mean, no clear advantage just yet, right? I mean, again, this is one of those tracks where you're not going to be able to have that opportunity to just really widen the distance with your lead for tempo. Hero's trying to do what he can to keep everyone at bay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Hojin, he's got the double water bomb as well.
Exactly. Double shield for Hero, but he can't hold on to first place, so it doesn't necessarily matter as much. Dropped out the EMP earlier. Picks up another shield here when he really needs either an attacking item or some sort of way to close that gap. Lens unprotected though, and Hero is going to sneak by him. Now Hero's got the lead. Great shield through that bomb. And they're just trying to block here and hold onto those shields for Hero.
Look at Guard just going for the sweeps once again. Goes for the Wisp, and he is on defense duty once more. Hero has the double shields. Really, the only thing that's going to slow him down is going to be that UFO or potential Magnet. So an EMP coming out for MSJ would be huge. Oh, but what a water bomb. It's going to catch everyone. Coming in from Hojin actually ties up the entire lineup. So Len says, you know what? That gives me the timing I want.
Yeah.
I go for the boost.
Yeah, now he's got a huge opportunity here. Unfortunately, has to use that shield on the barricade, and obviously going to get caught in the portal. That's rare. Angel is out here. MSJ just looking for blood. Wisp going to catch guard, and I think Na'Vi has all but locked this one up.
Oh man, Hojin, he's going to be kicking himself for that one. I mean, it was a huge hit, and he thought just because of the items they had, they would be able to continue forward, but the shields don't come out in time for Hero, and lo and behold, it's going to be Lens who had that nitrous right after.
Yeah, if you hit your teammates in that spot, you know, unfortunately, it's not going to be a net positive, but if he was able to hit it just slightly to the right where it hits only the ROX players, then he wins the game off of it, actually, and that's the razor-thin margins. For a water bomb shot like that, they changed on this patch. A lot easier to aim. You can have some really cool angles you can take. He went for the greedy one. That's kind of been the story of Hojin past the middle of the season is, if it's a risky play, I'm going to prove myself every time, and, you know, this time it backfires a little bit. He's proven himself in insane ways otherwise, but you know, Seongnam just going to say thank you on this one.
Yeah, they'll take whatever wins they can as they're the ones trying to take us to an ace smash. Now tied 1-1 in item mode. We go back to MIRAENSEJONG's pick of Forest Mushroom Caves. MSJ, are they going to play it a bit safer? I mean, once again, it's their pick. Can go for a bit more of that tempo style, so shouldn't be in a place where they have to greed too much.
Yeah, and we're just going to be seeing constantly exchanging items here. Lens too fast to break that one, and it's okay to get hit by these on lap one, the first part of it as well. BBoong holding on to an EMP. Always feels nice when you have a nice lead, but when you don't, it's like, I'd rather want to cycle this. Like Lens, for example, has two of them now, and he's not even in first place. There's not going to be any magnets coming out. He's not feeling too great about this. We'll cycle one and keep it just in case he can push into first and eat a UFO. That's what he's hoping for right now. Fortunately, we'll eat something else there, a water bomb.
Yeah, not able to block that one. But I like the idea, right? Because you keep the EMP on Lens. That allows BBoong to cycle through, try to go for some more aggressive items as he's way behind on the rankings. Maybe he gets a lightning. If not, he can catch up and try to support from the midfield, which he is now in place with that nitrous being used.
Yeah, Hero getting hit by that Wisp. Nice little break there by, I believe it was Na'Vi who fired that one out. Not 100% sure who fired it, but he braked and then dropped the Wisp down there to make sure he could catch him and give some extra protection for BBoong. BBoong up here in first. Lens gonna get magneted by Hero. Not the highest value magnet. He's trying to get himself in the Wisp range here, and we'll just hit Lens instead with it. That wasn't the greatest we've ever seen, unfortunately.
Yeah, not finding too much value. Now, BBoong earlier, he had a great magnet where he was able to keep Hojin at bay, and he's actually just going for some blocks right now as well, understanding that they might want to go for a team setup here for Seongnam ROX. Hojin, he went for the items, so he's going to just eat the barricade, but not the items he wanted, shield and EMP. If he was in first place, this looks good. However, he cycles the EMP for a magnet. Nock trying to catch up with a nitrous as well. The Guardian Angel comes out. Hojin, he's still got a shield and a magnet, so even if BBoong passes him, Hojin should have an idea of the UFO as well, but BBoong, he's shielded the water bomb, and no one can stop him as they both get slowed down. BBoong crosses the finish line first.
What a wild final team fight there with the magnet during UFO battling between deceleration, acceleration, but the shield that comes through there in the end is ultimately what protects against that final bomb and wins it for him. But that UFO really did him in because he was trying to magnet his way to a finish. Hojin has that magnet in the perfect spot, but the UFO is going to be too much for him. And not only does BBoong cross first, but Luning will actually even pass Hojun in those last final moments. And ROX pull ahead again here. Still need 2 more wins before they can force the ace match, but looking a little bit more hopeful. Reminiscent of what we saw, of course, in Speed, where they were able to pull ahead, but ultimately weren't able to finish. This time, though, winning on their opponent's track feels nice to get a huge momentum shift.
Yeah, absolutely. This is the type of lead you want. Now you can continue onto your own pick, which is going to be coming from Seongnam ROX as we go to Glacier Polar Halfpipe.
Seongnam ROX pulling ahead 2-1 here. And this is their track selection, as William just mentioned. And now, we'll see if they can find some tempo success, or rather not tempo, but kind of finishing success, those timing success this track is so known for here on this high ground that you'll see everyone pass through now. See if anyone takes it.
Not quite in position. We see a bunch of rockets being primed for attack here, so everyone just going to be spinning out, evening out the playing field. Now, Nox still has a pretty hefty lead, but again, this is one of those tracks where everyone will eventually find a way to catch up. Nox, not really any ways to keep the lead, as Hojun is just going to not play the game for a little bit.
Now, Luning here holding on to 2 rockets at the moment. Toss one out. Hero's got that balloon that's going to make him spin. Guard will spin as well. We'll spin a second time. We're just rocketing away here. But the biggest winners of this are Lens and Navi right now, who start to pull quite significantly ahead. And now Lens can take a more defensive stance here with this Wisp. And Navi will toss out a shield, picks up another one. And Luning is just trying to buy space here with Lens now. Lens can just hold that Wisp until somebody from MSJ passes, in this case, Nog. Really nice usage here to get onto the high ground of that magnet. But there's the Wisp.
Yeah, the Wisp keeps Hojun at bay as well. And Nock, I mean, he wanted to use the magnet onto Luning, but we did see another opponent for Seongnam ROX kind of block his vision. So he didn't get as much speed as he wanted. Eventually, though, able to take back first place, even the playing field as we get ready for lap number 3, the last lap. Quite a few big items in store already. MIRAENSEJONG has both a Guardian Angel and a Lightning Bolt at bay.
Yeah, Hojun has 2 Nitros too, so he could try to jump onto the high ground here with one of those and then be relatively protected while his team tosses that Lightning out. Going to be tossed here early, actually, to bait a Guardian Angel. And let's see. Oh, huge water balloon!
Gosh.
Oh man, that is basically it.
Yeah.
No one can stop Lens now. He's got a Wisp. He doesn't have a shield or an EMP, but Luning is the one who's holding the UFO.
He's way too far ahead. I mean, Nock, he's just barely catching up. What's he going to get? He gets a magnet, but he gets hit by the barricade. Not able to get the shield. And now Hojun trying to pass by, but no items can keep Lens at bay. Luning with the biggest water bomb of the playoffs so far, as he's able to secure yet another round for Seongnam ROX.
And these water balloons are definitely not MIRAENSEJONG's friends tonight. That is a huge win. Massive bomb there. Perfect timing as everyone's trying to nitro their way onto the high ground to get that extra protection. They used the Lightning early. They also baited out a Guardian Angel, but it doesn't matter. If you get that much of a lead off of just one big bomb like that, who cares about who's got Angels, who's got Nitros? Lens takes a massive lead, and ROX pull ahead here into match point 4 item. 1 win away now from bringing us to that ace match. It almost feels like fate. It almost feels like we're going to have it as some Kwangdong players here coming to watch, it looks like.
Yeah, just scouting out their potential opponents. Now, of course, whichever team wins here today on stage, they will have to face Live Sandbox first. So Kwangdong Freaks will have a lot more data to work off of, a lot more VOD review available on their side as they already await at the podiums of the grand final. But MIRAENSEJONG, this item mode, it's not going the way it has during the regular season, during the round robin. We'll see if they can bring things back as we go to their next pick of Factory Cogwheel Crush. It is set point for Seongnam ROX. They're trying to take us to another ace match between these two teams. MIRAENSEJONG wanting to do everything they can to minimize the number of tracks needed to be played, especially as, you know, if it's going to be Hojun that enters the ace match, he does have solos afterwards as well, so you want to make sure you set him up for success.
Oh, absolutely. Lens and Luning right now starting to get a significant lead. It's not anything huge just yet, as Lens will take a very wide outer to avoid any water bombs. This time has to shield it. Picks up another shield. Actually, that was Nock who picked that up here. He's holding on to that Wisp, which was quite critical in the last track of lap 2. see what he can get done with it, but he doesn't have a front runner just yet. Luning is going to be that guy as he wraps around on that wide turn. Gets to keep his shield for now. Hojun and Hero looking for the attack. Hero has that lightning. We'll see if they use it for tempo here or if they want to try to save it. It's always a tough call right now in this meta.
Yeah, I mean, especially just because going into lap 2, the lead player is going to keep their shields, they're going to keep those Guardian Angels. So there's a question of which one do we bait it out with, right? Do you bait it out with the lightning or do you bait it out with something like a missile? We'll have to wait and see. But
well, I mean, they scanned it. The scanner actually saw Hero has the lightning, so that's actually rarely useful in pro play, but in this case, it's going to be quite significant. They used the Angel early regardless, though, and so now they should be a little bit worried, okay, like this might come through. Luning does pick up another one. That's very nice for them because otherwise they know they are sitting ducks here on this final lap.
Oh, so Guard now going for his own scanner, so both teams fairly aware of what the big items are in store. Now, Na'Vi, though, picks up a Lightning Bolt right after. So Nock, he's going to have to be ready with that trigger here for the Guardian Angel. It actually just comes through. They don't Guardian Angel it. They're just going to rely on the magnets right now on the side of MIRAENSEJONG. Guard still in the lead. He's got an EMP as well, so they're believing him.
Big banana!
Oh my gosh, it ties up everyone. Guard, he has to get the lead back so he can tie them up. Now both players going through the shortcut. Guard takes the lead. He's got that EMP at the ready if anyone drags him on with the magnet.
The Wisp isn't going to be as useful, though. High ground jump here. Na'Vi trying to pull ahead. He's past him, and I think he's done it.
Oh, no! Hojun was going for his own Hail Mary as well, but Na'Vi just gets too much of a lead. And it's going to be Seongnam ROX taking us to the ace match as they finish item mode 4-1.
4-1 dominance here from ROX. And yes, some of those item games were very close, but there was some critical water bombs, especially that changed fate. And then in that final one, the lightning there not really being the game changer. It was just the momentum that they had that was too difficult to break. And Na'Vi with that really nice high ground push, just untouched there. And even with Hojun trying to match, he's not able to do it. It was very close, but now we get to have the conversation about ace match because everything we've predicted so far has come true.
Yes.
Right? MSJ wins speed. It was closer than expected. You end up going into ROX's item territory. They end up winning that. That's kind of our expectation as well. But now we're thinking Luning 100% comes out here. That's the main expectation. Despite BBoong looking good these days, Acidfly also having a great run in solos. But who do you trust? Is it Hojun? Is it Hero here for the side of MSJ? This is your tournament life on the line. You can see the coach is talking to both of them right now. And it's one of the tougher calls that you're going to have to make here.
Yeah, this is a tough one. I mean, Hero, he looked a little shaky during the team matches, right? He had to just start going for these aggressive aggro plays just to draw away attention. He was never really solidly in the lead. Meanwhile, Hojun, he's been put on that pressure to make something happen for his team. However, he also has to play that solo match. Now, obviously, you want to focus a bit more on the team match today because you lose, all of your players are going to be out of the team matches. Of course, Hojun, he's going to have a bit of a break afterwards to prep again for the solos, but curious to see. Meanwhile, you do see Nock trying to join the conversation here, just trying to help make the decision.
It almost looks like it's Hojun, but you know, for me, like, I think Hojun has had some incredibly high highs this season. He got it done for them last time around as well against Luning when they faced off in the regular season in the ace match. This will be the second time these teams go to ace against each other. But I feel like the consistency Hero has shown is what I would trust here because you never know if Hojun's going to have that 80% highest high or if it's going to be one of the lows. We don't know what the track is going to be just yet. It's going to be revealed in just a moment. Let's see.
The roulette stops
on Bayside Bridge Run. Oh, this is a tough one.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's so many mind games on a track like this, right? It's a wide track. However, there is that ending where you can take the shortcut on the sidewalk, go for the close corner. You can also try to go for a straight boost if you want, even in a 1v1. So lots of mind games to be had. Do you try to just keep the lead or do you go for an aggressive run right near the end, take over on the shortcut, and then cross the finish line first? With this in mind, I think you might lean back towards Hojun just because of the veterans he has, and that's what it's going to be. MIRAENSEJONG, they bring out Hojun. To no one's surprise, Seongnam ROX will be fielding Luning.
Last time they faced off on Mine Rickety Rails, it was Luning who took it. See if Hojun can get revenge this time around. Let's see which Hojun we get. How many risks is he going to take? This is such an incredible 1v1 that's going to determine which team faces Live Sandbox. It's all down to this one final race. Luning, the defending champion in solos, can he do it again?
Luning versus Hojun. They have to face off again right afterwards in the solos as well. But right now, all eyes on them to bring the team further in the playoffs here in the very first season of the KDL. We will find out on Bayside Bridge Run. Hojun in blue taking the lead right off the bat, fielding for MIRAENSEJONG. Luning will be in the red, racing for Seongnam ROX. A two-lapper to decide who stays alive in the playoffs of the KDL.
Hojun with a great start here, also has a nitro advantage right now, but Luning just holding that center line as he tries to find an angle while Hojun looks to catch up here. Now falling behind actually, and we'll have to draft. Luning just blocking, playing an aggressive sweeping game here instead of trying to build a lead and avoid draft range. He knows he's not going to be able to escape Hojun's draft for now. Hojun, he's so good at these 1v1s.
Yeah, and he just had to cut a lot there to try to catch up, as of course Luning went for a lot of those cuts as he was sweeping around the first curve. Hojun regains first, but he tries to go for a stop. It's not going to work out, so Luning with a bit more of a lead than Hojun was willing to give, but Hojun will be in draft range. He should have another opportunity as we get ready for lap number 2.
It's a battle of old versus young here. Hojun, the Emperor, the oldest kart rider player, Luning, a new, young, up-and-coming talent here, and he is trying his best to compete here. Hojun continues to try to take these aggressive inners, but he keeps punishing himself by taking them too greedily. We'll be able to recover here, though, on the outer. This is such an insanely close race.
Yeah,
Both of them even in Nitro as well.
Oh, and Hojun barely edges him out for now, but it really just comes down to one, if not two more opportunities for either player. Now, Luning, he's been getting good reads on Hojun's block, so he's just trying to take the outer lines every single time. It works out again, but Hojun, he should have figured it out by now. Can he keep it up? Both of them staying so calm throughout this 1v1. Hojun takes the lead as we enter the last parts of lap number 2. Luning takes him by. One more opportunity for Hojun as the draft comes in, but Luning does get the block. No, it's not going to be enough. Hojun cuts him off. Luning, the draft comes in, but it's not going to be enough. He bumps Hojun forward. And ladies and gentlemen, MIRAENSEJONG stay alive and move on to the lower bracket finals of the very first official KDL playoffs.
Hojun did it. He stayed cool. He stayed cool when it mattered most. He had that extra nitro. He used it perfectly there. Got the block there. Pushed Luning into the wall and then recovered straight into the checkered flag. MSJ, the super team, the story continues, and they will find themselves at worst case scenario in top 3 here. And with the rise we've seen from this team and how much they have delivered, who's to say they couldn't beat Live Sandbox? Who's to say they couldn't prevent us from having another Kwangdong Live Sandbox finals? That next matchup between those two teams is going to be incredible. And as mentioned, Hojun has got to be feeling great about his solos. He's got to be right in the high of this one where his teammates jump up to embrace him as he clutches it in the final parts of that second lap.
I mean, just a great read from Hojun. All of his attempts throughout the first lap and a half don't come to fruition. Luning gets a good read on Hojun's style. He knows that Hojun's been playing more aggressive. He just avoids all battles. And then Hojun says, one more opportunity. I'm just going to make sure I keep a little bit away from the wall. And that's all he needed to stay ahead of Luning. Gets on the sidewalk ahead of him. And that seals the deal as we see yet another close match between the two. But MIRAENSEJONG comes out victorious once again.
See Luning giving a little bit of applause there as well. You know, is essentially his way of saying great race, well played, and showing some respect. Is now these two players 1-1 against each other in terms of their ace match results. So they will battle again in solos, as we mentioned, and I think we may see the brewing of a rivalry between these two players as time goes on. But
yeah,
a very, very close series here. ROX dominating item, but Luning couldn't get it done in the end, and Hojun, he stuck the landing, and that's something we haven't always been able to be able to say about him in his recent form, right? Sometimes he has really high highs, but then he'll, you know, take an aggressive risk, as we saw even in those final moments of the ace match. But he pulled it off that time. That time it happened. That time it worked.
Yeah, exactly. And coming into the official first season of the KDL, I feel like Hojun's been finding more of that groove. He's been really increasing that success rate, right? So in the preseason, obviously, he took that defeat to Luning, but now both times here in the KDL first season, every time they faced off against each other in teams, it's gone to that ace match, and Hojun comes out victorious again. You know, just making sure to keep calm. I mean, this time Luning was really in the zone as well, but it came down to that last opportunity, just getting that read 1 second faster, and that puts MIRAENSEJONG up in the lower bracket finals on the right side. They are now secured for top 3, but can they make it to the grand finals? We'll have to find out when they face off against Live Sandbox next week.
Yeah, on the 29th, so mark your calendars for that one. That should be amazing.
That should be big. Yeah, that should be huge. I mean, whichever team moves on, the story's there, right? If it's Sandbox, it's the continued rivalry between Live Sandbox and Guangdong Freaks, but if it's MIRAENSEJONG, it's Hojun trying to reclaim his throne, continue his legacy alongside old teammates and old apprentices as well on his team. We'll see which story comes to fruition. Both of them with yellow logos as well, so it's going to be a battle of the yellows as they get ready to race against the Guangdong Freaks in red.
It's really crazy that Hojun could have spent the entire preseason, I don't want to say struggling, but not living up to expectations, then go into the first real season of KDL and be the oldest player and the first champion of the team league. That would just be insane.
Yeah.
What a story it could be.
Yeah, I mean, the potential is alive. And for them to even get this far in the playoffs, again, we didn't see that from Hojun throughout the preseasons, but absolutely impressive race. However, it's not over for us. It's not over for Hojun yet either, nor Luning, because both of them will have to continue racing in the final round of the round of 16 solos. So, ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, it's going to be time to find out which 4 players will move on to the final 8. Right after this break, in just a second. We'll just have to wait. The break wasn't quite ready. We were riding the adrenaline high. It happens sometimes.
Yeah.
But this does give us a bit more time to just reminisce about what an impressive team match we just had.
Yeah, and it's sad for ROX too. We spent most of it talking about the glory of Hojun, but for ROX, we'll give them one last final goodbye. Great run this season. Some of those players still playing in solos, of course, as mentioned.
Yeah, absolutely. So hopefully we can see more of them. Now, ladies and gentlemen, once again, it's going to be the last round of the round of 16 here for the solo matches. 4 racers will move on to the final 8 right after this break.